A garden in the Arizona desert has produced food for 30 years without irrigation. Most gardens in wet climates still need daily watering. The difference is not rainfall, it is design. Modern suburban design was engineered to remove water from the land as quickly as possible. The storm drain, the sloped driveway, the raised bed on bare soil. Every piece of standard garden infrastructure moves water away from where plants need it. The evening watering routine most gardeners run is not gardening. It is compensation for a design failure that happened before the first seed went in the ground. The gardener comes home from work, picks up the hose, unknots it without thinking. They have done this hundreds of times, every evening from May through September, every year. Most gardeners were never told the routine itself was the problem. The entire foundation runs on 3 layers: mulch, captured rain, and roots trained to go where the water already is. 1 season to build, no daily labor after that. Here is what the watering instruction did not say. Shallow, frequent watering trains roots to remain in the surface layer, where water is reliably provided. The plants become structurally dependent on surface irrigation, incapable of reaching the subsoil moisture that exists 1.5 feet below them. The watering routine created the dependency it was designed to address. There is a property in Tucson, Arizona. 12 inches of rain per year, mature fruit trees, vegetable beds, herb gardens, no irrigation system, no daily hose, no municipal water on the garden at all. The property has been documented for 30 years by the man who built it. His name is Brad Lancaster. Before the full foundation, here is the one thing to do this weekend. Spread a 4-inch layer of wood chips, straw, or shredded leaves across every bare soil surface in your garden. Every inch of bare soil is an evaporation surface. Cover it. By afternoon, uncovered topsoil has already turned pale and dusty again. Mulched soil underneath stays dark and cool to the touch. Watering frequency drops immediately. 20 to 40% less water needed. From 1 afternoon of work, 1 layer of mulch can permanently change how a garden survives summer. That is the starting point. Before we get into the structure, tell me in the comments, how often do you water your garden? Every day? Every other day? And what state are you in? Brad Lancaster is a permaculture designer based in Tucson, Arizona. In 1996, he measured the rainfall flowing unused from his street into the storm drain. He found it was sufficient to supply the irrigation needs of every property on the block. That water was already falling. It was flowing past every garden on the street. Every single year. The gardener was not failing. The system around the garden was designed to waste the water before it could be used. A garden in Tucson, Arizona. 12 inches of rain per year, no supplemental irrigation, 30 years of documented food production. If that is possible in one of the driest cities in America. Subscribe to Roots and Garden. We go into the cycles that have always been possible and were never shown. Free, always will be. Layer 1, deep mulch. Bare soil exposed to sun and wind loses moisture at a rate of 1/4 to 1/2 inch per day in warm weather. A 4-inch layer of organic mulch reduces surface evaporation by 70 to 80%. The soil beneath stays moist for 3 to 5 days after watering, instead of 12 to 18 hours. A gardener watering daily through a 5-month season applies roughly 150 watering sessions. A gardener with a properly mulched garden, 30 to 50. The labor reduction is 65 to 80%. From 1 afternoon of mulch application, pull back the mulch layer on a 90-degree afternoon. The soil underneath is cool to the touch. Dark, damp, alive. The surface 2 inches above it are already dry. Source wood chips from a municipal mulch program. Most cities offer free chips from tree trimming operations. Apply 4 inches across all bare soil. Keep mulch 6 inches from plant stems to prevent rot. Replenish annually in spring. The decomposing layer feeds the mycorrhizal network beneath. Fungal threads thinner than a human hair spreading through the dark, carrying moisture from where the soil holds it to where the roots need it. The common mistake, applying mulch too thin. At 2 inches, summer sun still reaches the soil surface. At 4 inches, the thermal mass insulates completely. Zones 3 through 5, 3 to 4 inches. Zones 6 through 8, 4 to 6 inches. Zones 9 through 11, 6 to 8 inches. Surface soil temperatures under deep mulch run 20 to 30 degrees cooler than bare soil in peak summer heat. The surface dries first. The life underneath stays. Layer 2. Water harvesting. Most people pay for water while rain is literally leaving through the gutter beside them. Water falls on the roof, flows through gutters to the storm drain, runs off driveways and paths, every drop directed away from the garden by infrastructure designed to remove it. Enough water falls on the average American roof each year to irrigate the garden several times over. Instead of disappearing down the driveway, that rain could pause beside the tomatoes. One weekend of redirecting a single gutter downspout can permanently change how a garden survives summer. 3 levels of implementation. Level 1, downspout diversion. One afternoon. Disconnect a downspout from the gutter system. Extend it to direct flow into the garden rather than the storm drain. Position the end in a slight depression so water spreads across the bed rather than pooling. Level 2, swales. 1 to 2 weekends. A swale is a shallow, level trench dug along a contour line across a slope. When rain runs downhill, the swale intercepts it, holds it until it percolates into the soil rather than running off. Most gardeners never see this water. They hear it in the gutter during storms and reach for the hose the next morning. Most people discover this accidentally during one heavy storm. Level 3. Rainwater tanks. An IBC tote available for $50 to $100 used. Stores the water from a single moderate rain event on an average roof. One storm charges the tank. The tank supplies 2 to 3 weeks of garden irrigation. The common mistake: building swales off contour. A swale that is not perfectly level flows to one end rather than distributing water evenly. Use a line level or clear tubing filled with water to establish true contour before digging. 1 hour of careful measurement prevents a season of uneven distribution. Storm drain infrastructure was designed in the early 20th century to remove water as fast as possible, before water scarcity was a consideration. The hose was sold to replace what the roof was already providing. Your house receives enough water annually to supply your entire garden, and it currently flows to the street. If that changed how you think about where your garden's water comes from, subscribe to Roots and Garden. This is where the ancient cycles that replaced irrigation live. 2 layers, evaporation eliminated, rain captured. The 3rd layer goes underground. Layer 3, deep root architecture. Plant roots in undisturbed soil develop 2 distinct zones, a fibrous surface network in the top 12 inches, and a deeper foundation extending 3 to 8 feet into subsoil, where moisture persists through drought. Most garden plants never develop this deep foundation. Shallow, frequent irrigation gives roots no reason to grow deeper. The roots stay where the water is. A surface-rooted plant dies in drought. A deep-rooted plant accesses water that surface irrigation never reaches, even in August when the surface looks cracked and pale. The deeper soil still holds spring. Cool, dark, moist. 3 feet down, the season has not changed. Building it takes 3 steps. Step 1. Stop shallow, frequent watering. Replace with deep, infrequent watering every 5 to 7 days. Roots follow moisture down. Within 1 season, root depth increases measurably. Most gardeners try this for a week in midsummer. Watch plants stress, and abandon it before the roots have time to adapt. Switch in early spring. Give roots the cool months to develop depth before summer drought arrives. Step 2. Integrate deep-rooted perennials into the garden. Comfrey mines moisture from 6-foot depths. Dandelion loosens compacted subsoil and creates infiltration channels for surrounding crops. Jerusalem artichoke opens heavy clay over multiple seasons. Step 3. Build mycorrhizal networks. The mycorrhizal web extends effective root reach by 10 to 100 times. Destroyed by tillage. Built over 2 to 3 undisturbed seasons under mulch. 3 layers. Deep mulch, water harvest, deep roots. 1 season to build, no daily labor after that. Subscribe to Roots and Garden. The garden that waters itself is not a fantasy. It is a design, the honest timeline. Year 1 still feels uncertain. The gardener still reaches for the hose automatically. Spring. Apply 4-inch mulch. Disconnect one downspout to garden. Switch from daily shallow watering to deep watering every 5 to 7 days. Summer. Expect some stress. Water when plants show mild afternoon wilting that recovers by morning. Observe where water accumulates after rain. Those are natural swale locations. Fall. Dig swales along those lines. Plant deep-rooted perennials at swale edges. The second year feels easier. The mulch is building soil organic matter. Roots have developed significant depth. Swales intercept spring rainfall. Irrigation frequency has dropped to twice per week or less. The third year is when the garden starts remembering rain on its own. Most vegetable crops need supplemental irrigation only during extended drought. 2 weeks or more without rain. In most continental U.S. climates, the honest exception. Leafy greens in summer heat and transplants in their first 2 weeks still need consistent moisture. What most water-saving content does not mention: a properly dense planting, leaves touching, canopy nearly closed, captures measurable dew from cool nights and channels it to the root zone. Plant more densely than the seed packet recommends. Allow the canopy to close. The microclimate beneath retains humidity measurably better than open-spaced planting. In early morning before the dew burns off, broad leaves channel droplets down their center veins. The soil at the base of each plant is darker than the paths between them. This one is older than the Romans. An unglazed clay pot, sealed at the top except for a small opening, buried in the soil at surface level. Filled with water. The clay seeps water slowly through its wall. At exactly the rate plants draw moisture from surrounding soil. When plants are active, the Olla delivers. When plants are dormant, it stops. Automatic, no timer, no guesswork. The clay feels slightly damp on the outside when it is working correctly. Not wet, damp. Ollas have been documented across the American Southwest, the Middle East, North Africa, and China for between 2,000 and 4,000 years. Most gardeners were never shown this. It was not sold at the hardware store. The hose was. Lancaster's principle. Start at the top of the watershed. In a suburban property, the top of the watershed is the roof. The water that falls on the roof is the water the garden needs. The gutter directs it away. One season of reconnecting that flow begins the foundation. His Tucson property receives 12 inches of rain per year. It produces food without supplemental irrigation. The property is not a miracle. It is a design. A properly mulched, swoled garden after a summer rain smells different from a bare soil garden. The moisture stays. The smell stays with it. The specific earthiness of soil that has not dried out. At some point in the third season, the gardener notices they forgot to water for 3 days. They walk out expecting damage. Nothing suffered. The hose remains coiled beside the wall, untouched for days. That is the moment the foundation reveals itself. Not a dramatic event. Just a quiet morning, and the realization that the work happened while they were away. The water was always there. The design never reached it. One season changes the design. The hose is still there. It just stopped being necessary. Subscribe to Roots and Garden. The gardener was not failing. The foundation was incomplete. The water foundation completes it. Which of these 3 layers are you building first? Mulch, water harvest, or deep roots? And has your garden ever survived a drought without you watering it?